Guys, I just wanted to touch up on some information that just came out. I don't know if you could call it information, but there was a video released with a small Q&A session with Matt Dusenberry, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the guy's name. It was some young kid that was doing the questions, and there was also some other information like as far as a presentation video that they said was going to be in the game, and they showed it. It was just a few seconds long, but I wanted to talk about that real quick and a couple of things that I'm concerned about. First of all, the video that was released, it's some presentation video, and it clearly says that it's part of the game. And I believe Rick Allen is doing the voiceover, and it shows you just before the Daytona race, shows you the views of pit road where all the cars are waiting, I guess, for the command to fire the engines. And you hear Rick Allen's voice, and he's talking. It's like a little pre-race presentation. That's I liked it. I like what I saw. It was very small what they showed, but what I saw I did like. It looks good, and it's just presentation, but it's precisely the thing I'm always talking about in terms of immersion and part of the career mode. And the more stuff like that you can add to a game, it helps with the immersion. It's one of the reasons I love the NBA 2K series so much because uh, Take Two really knows how to do a career mode. And I wish that these guys would take a long, hard, serious look at the NBA 2K series and the way the career mode is structured. It's just endless content, presentation, things that happen off the court. Uh, you know, fully fleshed out. It's by far the best career mode of any game I've ever seen. And I'm not just talking about one game, but the whole NBA 2K series. They've really, they just make it better every year. You can have uh, you custom characters. You have a face cam where you can actually use the camera for the PlayStation, and it scans your face, and you imagine that you could scan your face and your fit for the character in the game, in the NASCAR game. That would be awesome. You could see yourself, how you really look, and taking that another step further and allowing you to customize your fire suit and customize your car. Obviously, all of this stuff I'm talking about is stuff that I would love DMI or DMR. I'm kind of confused as to what they're referring themselves as right now, but love to see them look into stuff like that and take that into consideration, trying to get stuff like that done. But that's for later. Obviously, none of that stuff is for now. However, I like what I saw with that presentation video, and I hope that that's just a teaser. I hope there's a lot more stuff like that. I want to see some pre-race, post-race. I'd love to see some. When they used to show the entire field going around the track on the behind the pace car just before the green flag, and then they announce the whole field and where they're starting. I hope they do that. Um, I hope it's not just what they released in this video, but I like what I saw. That's a positive thing, and the more stuff you can add to this game in terms of presentation, it really helps. And I love stuff like that. I know a lot of people don't think it's a big deal. A lot of people say like, who cares? After you see it once, you just never pay attention to it. You skip it, whatever. The point is that there are some people like myself who want to be as immersed as possible. I mean, video games are a fantasy. You don't want to, be reminded that it's just a game. You kind of want that's part of the fun that you're like, hey, I'm actually part of this NASCAR world. So the more presentation, the better. I like that they released that. That's a nice little video. I'm hoping they did a lot more than just that. So moving away from that, I want to get to this Q&A video that's online right now. And the one thing that stood out most of all for me was that it was completely softball all the way. The kid, never asked Matt Dusenberry any hardcore questions. They never ever addressed any of the issues that or concerns that people like me have had since that Twitch video session was released. You mean to tell me that they're not aware of all the negative uh, commentary that's happening since that Twitch feed was released? You mean to tell me they're not aware that people are asking questions about, hey, these cars don't look right. They look ashy. They look dusty. Um, they're just cloudy looking. There's something not right with the graphics. They have to be aware. I mean, somebody in marketing is paying attention to social media. So for him to sit there and never be asked once about any of this stuff, I found that quite suspicious. Okay? I'm just putting that out there. Why are you going to have a Q&A session if you're not going to address the concerns people have at the moment? So it was, to me, a fluff piece. It was just, they were cherry picking questions. I don't know where the guy, they kept looking at the screen. So I don't know where they were getting these questions from. Was it from Twitter? But they were clearly cherry picking softball questions. Okay? So that's the first thing and the most important thing that stood out to me. So that, for me, is a red flag. He did mention a couple things that did make me think and were important to me. So I don't want to say that the entire thing was a waste. One, he mentioned that they began development of this game in January of last year. That means that as of today, this game has been in development for a year and a half. Okay? And we're just over 2 months away from a release. If you want to get nitpicky, it's almost two and a half months. So he mentions that. He says, and then he says, we're still polishing the game, which I totally believe it. They must be polishing it. There's still things to work on. But he never really got into details about what they were actually working on, which is okay as well. I don't expect them to sit there and list a whole bunch of details either. But he said one thing he clearly said, and I was surprised to hear it. He said, we are halfway through the development process. That doesn't sound like it makes sense to me. And he says, well, we're halfway through the development. We're still got work polishing and stuff like that. And I said to myself, didn't he just say that this game's been in development for a year and a half? And knowing that the release date is 2.5 months away, and does it make sense? Is it just me? Does it make sense that he said, "Oh, we're halfway through the development of this game"? I don't mean to be nitpicky, but are we really just gonna leave that alone? That doesn't make sense to me. Maybe he didn't think about what he was saying, and he's just like trying. Maybe this is a bullshit Q&A session, and he's just a fluff piece, like most developers do. They come out and they hype the game, and they kind of cherry pick questions that they can easily answer with more fluff, and then just like, okay, hey, more hype, and then more promises. And to me, that 99% of this Q&A session, that's what it was. So I didn't really get a lot out of it, but the things that stood out to me was that, most of all. And I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. 2 months is not a lot of time. 2.5 months. And I would think at this stage, you're in the final stages. Okay? At some point, you have to start packaging distribution, and just full marketing, right? You need time for that. Um, he said that they have a large staff of people working on this game. I would just love for him to have answered one question that, like, hey, people are concerned about that Twitch feed. A lot of people are saying that that game looks subpar, and there a lot of people are voicing their concerns about the graphics. Yes, I know graphics are not the most important thing, but you can't just ignore it either. Now, you got Forza that only has an expansion pack, and that the cars on that expansion pack look way better than anything I've seen so far from DMI. So that's an open world type of racing game for the most part, and they're only giving you a teaser of NASCAR, and they're doing it looks way better. I'm not saying it's a fully fleshed out NASCAR game. Of course it isn't. I'm just trying to say that they they at least rendered the cars beautifully. Even Eutechnics' games were better looking visually. They have to do something about the way this game looks. Doesn't look right. And even in that video that I just mentioned with the presentation, they still show you the cars still had that milky look to them. And when they back panned out to the track and you see the lights on, they have that fog look around the lights, like when there's a mist or a fog. Every video I've seen has that look when it's a nighttime shot. What the fuck? Why is that there? And that's a big concern to me. And we can't keep excusing these guys. Oh, it's their first time. Oh, graphics are not the most important thing. Oh, they'll get it right the next time. Stop complaining so much. What do you think? They're going to just pack up and quit and go home and say we're not doing any NASCAR games because people are complaining? This is constructive criticism. And I'll bet you, if you ask any of them, they'll be the first to tell you, we like constructive criticism. The Eutechnics did the same thing. They told everybody we appreciate your criticism. Did they ever do anything about it? No. But the point is, you'd never hear one of them saying, why are you complaining? Graphics aren't the most important thing. They know better. So why as consumers don't we know any better? Why are we constantly telling people, well, why are you complaining? It's just the first game. We haven't seen a decent NASCAR game in 10 years. When is enough enough? We're paying for this. This isn't free. It's not even half price. They're going to charge us the price of a full game. And we already know there's no paint booth. So stop going after people that are only trying to provide constructive criticism. It is not unreasonable to say to DMR, what's wrong with these graphics? There's something not right here. This doesn't even look like a current gen game. It looks like a last gen game. It looks better on Forza. And another thing I want to mention for people, I don't think you guys realize, NASCAR games are built as a linear. They're linear games. What I mean by that is, there's a fixed environment. You can't leave that environment. Games that are linear, okay, they tend to look much better graphically. They sound better. All kinds of things that are done. They're just much better looking than, let's say, an open world game, right? A game like Grand Theft Auto, which looks pretty damn good for what it is, but it's an open world game. It's massive. There's a million things happening at once, and you as the player can do so many things basically whatever you want. You can go wherever you want. You can do all kinds of crazy things. All of this stuff has to be taken into account when developers build these games. They can't leave anything. They can't leave any wall that stops you, the player, from doing something you want to do. Right? It's an open world game. It's a sandbox. NASCAR games are not like that. NASCAR games are linear, right? So a game like, I'm just using an example, like Max Payne 3 when that came out, or even these Uncharted games. They're not really open world. They've done a much better job in opening up the environment, but they're still linear. There's only so far you can go in the map before you kind of hit a wall and you can't go further, because they want to keep you. That's why it's called linear. They keep you on a track, basically, and each level you go to, it's its own level. You can't just go back. If you're playing in Timbuktu, you can't go back to Alaska. You know what I mean? Like with the different maps, that's how linear games are, right? NASCAR games are linear. You only have a fixed number of tracks, and you're on that track. You can't leave the track. You can't drive to the garage. You can't do any of that stuff. So you render the tracks and you render the cars. And then you have a limited amount of room where you can drive this car. That's why it's a linear experience. So it should be easier to make the graphics better in a linear game. And if you look at any linear titles, they always look way better than an open world game does, because an open world game asks so much more of the hardware. There's so much more happening that it's difficult to polish the game to the point where it looks as good as a linear game. Linear games are fixed in. I think I've explained that as much as I can. If you don't understand, I apologize, but that's the best I can do. So, being that NASCAR games are linear, it should be a no-brainer that the graphics should be top-notch. And there's no excuse for the way the game looks at this moment. Yeah, it's alpha or beta, whatever you want to call it. They're still polishing it. But what I'm saying is that I have a hard time believing that in 2.5 months to release date, after a year and a half of development, and this is how the game looks right now, what makes you think that in 2 months it's going to suddenly be dramatically improved? Now, I don't have any reason to believe that they can't do something about the way the cars look. Okay? And even everything else. It's just a bland looking. The graphics are bland. There's something wrong. It looks like there's some weird filter over everything. That should be fixable. I expect that to be fixed. But they also released a couple more screenshots. I don't remember where I saw it. I think it's on YouTube. But even the screenshots they're releasing now, the graphics still look the same. So whenever a developer releases screenshots, the screenshots always look polished. Even though the game isn't fully ready, they show you the best possible images that they can show you. Why would they show you crappy stuff unless that's as good as they got right now? This Twitch feed that I fucking hammered, you damn right I hammered it. We're 2.5 months away from a release, and this is your showcase to people. You invited that guy to play this game on Twitch, and that's the best you could do, and the game looks like that? That's either a massive clusterfuck by marketing, or this is as good as it's gonna be, maybe some slight tweaks. So this is what concerns me. Besides all the other stuff, where the game just doesn't, I don't know. I don't see any dramatically better where the cars get wrecked. How do they look? We don't know. We seen people smash into walls, and the cars. I don't see any damage effects that look. I haven't seen cars pitting. We don't even know what that's going to look like, how it's going to be. I'm just really concerned, and I am rooting for these guys to get it right. And I hope that, you know what? I hope I am wrong. I want to be the first guy to come on and say, hey, this game is so much better than I thought it was going to be, and I'm wrong, and I'm glad I'm wrong. I don't want to be right. I don't make money doing this shit. I only post a handful of videos because this is stuff I really care about. So I don't just come online and start posting all kinds of garbage about any thought that flies into my head. I don't make money doing this, and I don't even know how to edit videos. This is why all my videos are just pure commentary. I wish I could edit videos and show you what I'm talking about, so I can use examples, like when I'm talking about NBA 2K and the career mode and all the features and the presentation, and it would really help bring what I'm trying to say across. Some of you get it, some of you maybe don't understand what I'm saying, and it would be nice if I knew how to edit and do all that stuff. But even if I knew how to do it, it's time consuming, and like I said, I don't do this for a living. I don't do this for attention. I care about NASCAR. I care about NASCAR games. I'm like you. I've been dying for a good NASCAR game. And the last really fun, solid NASCAR game that I can remember, probably NASCAR Thunder Series 2005. You know, I remember a lot more presentation in those games. The career mode was deep. It was immersive. You had multiple series. You had trophies. From every track that you won, you had trophies. It was so much deeper. You got so much more for your money on old consoles. And now, with all this technology, we're getting so much less, and all people do is make excuses. And they come and they tell me, you're complaining about graphics, it's just in the alpha mode. And we did all this. We already went through all this with your Technics. Go look at some of the old videos I did on your Technics, and you'll see some of the same things people were telling me back then, the same shit. Oh, it's just their first game. Oh, it's just their second game. Oh, graphics don't matter. Oh, this and the same stuff. And I used to be on the forums, and I don't know, I'm sure some of you remember the NASCAR forums, the Technics forums. I was on there, and I was 73 Duster, okay? And I had the same arguments with people there. And it's this thing about us as gamers, that we feel like we have to defend developers. Why? They are making a product to make money. You're the customer. And if something ain't right with the product, it's your duty to complain, so that they make a better product the next time. And don't let them get away with it. When they see consumers defend them and say, graphics ain't that important, then why should they care? They're going to say, well, they're saying it ain't that important. Don't even worry about that. I don't know who really is developing this game for DMR. This is another thing I want to touch on. These guys keep bragging about Monster Games, or I forgot the name, Monster, the guys that developed the original Heat. Let me ask you something. What makes you think that we're going back 15 years ago, almost. I lost count. How many of those guys that actually developed that game and developed Dirt to Daytona, how many of those guys do you think are working for Monster today, working on this game? Think about it. Most of these guys have moved on. They're probably working for another developer somewhere. So just because Monster, the company, is working on this game, it could be just PR. It could just be like, hey, yeah, technically it's them working on it, but none of these guys were around for the original game. So everybody's assuming that it's the same guys from all those years ago who are working on this game. Now, maybe it is, but there's just something about me that, through experience and bad experiences with developers, like Ubisoft, who constantly every year come out and overhype their games and give you all this phony footage that is really just polished up on a high-end PC, and then you get the game and you play it on a PS4 or an Xbox One, and you're like, this doesn't look anything like it did in E3 last year, because this is what they do. They overhype games. They give you this false bullshit to lead you on, and then it's not really what the product is. They make all these promises and they hype things up, and then when you get the game, it's like, this isn't. And I understand that's part of marketing, but we've allowed these people to cross the line between some hype where it's marketing and just all out bullshit, and that's our fault. We're the ones that allow them to do it. We don't call them out on it. And when someone does try to call them out on it, there's always someone there to play police. For them, they don't need your help. This is constructive criticism. And I'm not pretending I have all the answers. Maybe you might disagree with some of my opinions. I just happen to think I know what makes a good game. Sometimes I may ask for shit that is not possible. And I'm willing to accept that possibility. But some things make sense and some things don't. And I'm not the type of guy to allow something that doesn't feel right to me to just let it go unquestioned. And when this guy's saying, oh, we're halfway through development, you're 2.5 months away from a release. And believe me, at some point, you're just going to be in full marketing and packaging and distribution mode. Okay? How many people are actually going to be polishing this game to what? To release date? And then, this is the reason we have such a thing as patches on day one. Because when we used to get much better quality products shipped out day one, now it's like, don't worry about it. We'll fix it later. After people buy it, we'll work on patches. All of you Technics games, they gave us one patch after the next. And very little was improved with these patches. So, that's something else that is our fault. We allow these people to do it. Because we say, hey, it's okay. It's now common business practice to release games that are unfinished. And a lot of times they don't even come back and really fix the game. They just like, after a point, they give up and they're working on the next game. We have to take responsibility for some of that. And if you don't speak out, they're going to keep doing it. I still believe that DMR has the best of intentions. Nobody wants to make garbage games, all right? They all mean well. But how many times do we have to see, even Ubisoft, who I used as an example, they constantly do this. They overhype a game, and then you get it, and then it's nowhere near as good as they hyped it up to be. This is the age we live in. Overhyping, releasing products unfinished with tons of patches afterwards, and then we fall for it again. And you got people defending these games and this business practice. So I try not to do that. Again, I don't make a living doing this. I just happen to be passionate about NASCAR games, and I'm grateful to those of you who even sit here. I know these videos always end up being much longer than I meant for them to be, but I'm just someone who's passionate about it. I start talking about something and then I know I ramble on a bit, but I can't help it. Things pop into my head as I'm talking, and I'm like, man, that's something else I got to address. Sometimes I'm done with the video and I'm like, man, I forgot to mention this, or I forgot to talk about that. So I appreciate those of you who take the time to pay attention to what I'm saying, and even those of you who disagree with me. I got no problem with that. I don't mind, an opposing opinion, but don't just come out and tell me stop complaining about graphics. That's not the most important thing. I know it's not the most important thing, but it's fucking important. The reason we bought these next-gen consoles, a huge reason, is because we want to see better-looking games. And since when is it the wrong thing to expect a developer to walk and chew gum at the same time? Can't they make a game that handles and the physics are great and looks good? You guys are acting as if you can't have both. It has to be either or. And if we're telling them that their graphics don't look good, that somehow that means we're saying don't focus on the other stuff, focus on graphics. That's not what I'm saying at all. But we have allowed our expectations to sink to such a level that now it's like, if I complain about the graphics, then that means I'm telling them not to do the other stuff good. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that you're capable of doing better. And if you have to, spend more and hire more competent people, then do it. At the end of the day, when this product is released and it looks the way it does today, I'm going to be fucking pissed. And I expect a lot of people to be fucking pissed. The game shouldn't look like that. Especially when you have so many other places that you've seen this stuff done better. Even Eutechnyx's games looked visually better. Everything else was horrible. But I'm not saying that they looked amazing either. But what I'm saying in comparison to this stuff doesn't look right. And the longer you look at it, the worse it gets. It stays. When the initial gameplay video was released, I didn't think it looked that bad. And then I saw it again for a longer period of time, and it's just every time I see it, and now I see these screenshots, and even that presentation video, which I'm happy about, but still, you could still see these flaws. At this stage, and you're releasing this stuff to show people, you should be releasing the most polished images possible. This is not cutting it. So I hope DMR is working 24/7, fixing this stuff, polishing it up, and I look forward. I promise you, I look forward to saying how wrong I was. I want to be wrong, okay? I don't want to be an I told you so guy, but I told you so with all of the Eutech. Go back and look at my videos on the Eutechnyx games, on each and every release, and all. And you show me where I was wrong at any point in any of those games, right? And I'm not saying I know everything. I'm just saying that I learned. I learned through experience. So I can't be one of the people standing here saying, oh, it's just their first time, when I see this happen all the time. So I look forward to your comments. What do you think about that Q&A session? If you saw it, if you didn't, go look it out. Go check it out. And you tell me if you think they really addressed anything. And anything else, any other concerns you have. So I will be making another video at some point, and when I feel like I have something more to say. So maybe they'll release more footage. Maybe they'll release something, more information on the game. And so I'm really rooting for these guys. I am. So I look forward to your comments.